Welcome to the Sports Card Lessons Podcast. I'm your host, Big Ken. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on a streaming service, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You'll be notified whenever I drop any new content. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Happy Monday. What a busy weekend. My weekend actually started Thursday with some crazy sales in a Facebook group. And then on Friday and Saturday, it carried over to eBay. It's great when unexpected things happen, especially for the positive, right? And I'm going to get into that all in just a few minutes, but yeah, just crazy sales. Saturday, I spent the day in Boston. I went up to see Anne Juliet at the Citizens Opera House in Boston. I would recommend, first of all, I highly recommend the show. And second of all, what a great place to see a show. It's the first time I've seen a show in Boston. What a great place to see a show at the Citizens Opera House. But Anne Juliet was amazing. I highly recommend it, and I will definitely be seeing it again. I was back late on Saturday, up early Sunday for the local New Britain show, the hard-hitting New Britain show. And then home to watch Bills and Chiefs. And I ended up inviting some of the card guys over to watch the game here at my house. I was clearly outnumbered, mostly Bills fans, an odd Colt fan, and yours truly, the Chiefs fan. And like I said last night, I'd rather lose. Well, mostly, usually when anybody loses, right? They have something positive to say. So here's my positive thing to say: I'd rather lose during the regular season and win during the playoffs, right? And with these teams, that's historically that's the way it's been. The Bills will win the regular season game, and the Chiefs will beat them in the playoffs. So hopefully, we'll stay true to this again this year. So for now, my Arrowhead background is gone. And hopefully we will resurrect it during the playoffs. But now you're back to the black screen here for a while. And I was thinking I completely missed Halloween, right? I have that great Halloween background that I never got to use, and now Halloween is gone. So I didn't want to put a Thanksgiving one up. So we'll just stick with the black screen for now. Crazy day yesterday in fantasy too, right? Games you thought, oh, I got this game. This is an easy win, and you end up losing. And games I'm like, yeah, I probably have no chance of winning this one. I end up crushing the other team, right? It was just a crazy day with people just going off. And I have a really close game. I'm within a few points of a game that's going tonight. So and they've got us within 1 point. You know, when you look at what you're supposed to score, they have us within 1 point. So I think that's going to be one of those half-point wins either way tonight. I have to wait to see what happens there, but definitely have a close one going tonight. I was listening to the radio this morning, and they were talking about all the first-time achievements. Things that have never been done before, and how Taysom Hill has done all these things in the NFL in his career so far. And the crazy thing is his cards are worthless, but he's definitely got himself his name in a number of those record books. And he's a guy I think people love to hate, right? But we all know he's going to have those two or three games every season where he's going to put up like 25, 35, maybe even 40 points like he did yesterday. And it's generally the difference between winning and losing a fantasy matchup in any given week. I know I have him on one team, and that was the team I had him on. I did not expect to be close to winning that. And, yeah, I'm in crush mode right now. There's no way the other guy can, you know, I think he's got a kicker and a defense left tonight. I'm up on him on like 40 points. So, uh, I just finished talking about, on the last episode that I got this WNBA lot that I've been going through and separating cards out and sending stuff off to PSA. Um, and I've really been enjoying doing it, and I've been learning so much about a lot of the players that, because if if you weren't watching the sport back then, I mean, you don't know that, and I wasn't. I don't know a lot. Like, I know certain players because being here in Connecticut and being a UConn fan, and the women's basketball team always had star players. So anytime I see any of those names, like, I know, okay, they came from UConn. I know they were good, right? But it's just been interesting for me to go through and learn about some of these players, finding comps, finding prices on cards, what's good, what should I be sending to PSA, what I should be sending to SGC, what I shouldn't be grading at all, what I'd be wasting my money on grading. So, just going through it. So I have a pretty good idea what I have. I have a good idea what I've sent, what I've saved, what I've put in boxes that I figure eventually I'll just sell. And I saw on a Facebook group on Thursday, in the WNBA Facebook group, someone posted looking for 1999 or 2000 platinum cards, platinum numbered cards. So those cards are numbered either to 25 to 50 or 99, WNBA cards. And of course, I knew I had some going through this lot that I picked up. I had a bunch of them. Um, and as I found them, I looked up comps on those cars to say, okay, this was worth sending. So I have a lot of them off at being graded right now. I'm not going to say a lot, maybe, 7 or 8 of those off the grading, but there was about another handful, another 6 or so that, I looked up. I really couldn't find any information on the players. Um, and at the time, they didn't feel like, they were worth grading. Like, I didn't think when I was sending the other ones off that these probably weren't worth grading, that I would just hold on to them. Um, So I had them here in the office. So when I saw this post, I said, "Oh, you know what? Maybe I could move some of these. I can get started." So I took some pictures of them. I dug them out. I took some pictures. I DM'd them to the original poster, and then on his Facebook post, I just said, "Hey, I sent you a message." Um, Knowing that a couple had sold as recently as the summer, and they were generally like 30, 40, $50. They in all the sales going back 2 years, I never found one that sold for over $100 except for 2 players, right? And besides those 2 players, everybody else seemed to be, really pretty low in comps. Um, so before the original poster responded back to me, 6 other people who had been probably watching this post and saw me respond saying, "Hey, I sent you a message." They messaged me saying, "What do you have? I'm interested." So I sent the same pictures to everyone who inquired. One picture of the front, one picture of the back where they were numbered. I sent them off. And this was Thursday afternoon. Thursday night, Thursday afternoon, evening, I had plans, and then I knew I was gonna just make it home in time for the game Thursday night. So when I sent that out, I started getting bombarded with messages, and I told everybody, "Look, I'll just get back to you in the morning. Um, I have a lot going on. I wanna just go back and reprice these cards, make sure that I know what the prices are before I give you prices." Um And at this point too, I have all these people that are really interested. I really wanted to take the time and go back and really try to find the correct values of these cards. Um, and if you remember, I said these were the cards that I really didn't think were worth grading. So these I felt were the bottom of what I have. Even though the cards were in nice condition, a card that's selling for $40, yeah, if I send it off and I'm spending 20, 15, 20, $23 to grade this card with shipping and everything, there's really not, there's really not a lot of room in there. So at that point, I said, let me just hold on to these for a while. So Friday morning, I had plans to meet up with my guy Rich, Zwittlerbug Cards. So I brought these cards along because when I got up, of course, this was on my mind. I'm going through, I'm searching, and I posed him the question: if you were going to buy these cards from me, what would you offer me? What do you think would be a fair offer? And I didn't want to give him any information, any background. Just here are the cards. We do this all the time. We go to shows, we see cards, we're comping cards, we're looking it up. We've got many ways to look cards up to find values of cards, right? So between Card Ladder, eBay, all 130 point. And I know for Rich, it's mostly cards. It's all Card Ladder for him. So he came up with an explanation, like what he thought the price, a fair price would be on the card. And basically, they're the same prices I was coming up with. And we're just historically going back looking at, what these cards had sold for. So taking that information on my way home, I'm thinking to myself, let me just deep dive a little deeper before I send prices, right? Because I don't want to sell myself short on these cards. So when I got home, I said, okay, let me look at the players' careers just to make sure there's nothing in there I'm not missing. And who of these players were Hall of Famers? Who went to the Hall of Fame on here? And what does the internet say about these players, right? I just wanted to do my due diligence before I sent the price. So feeling the urgency in the messages from the people waiting to hear from me on Friday. Do you have prices yet? You got me yet? Looking for those prices. Make sure you give me first shot on those cards. So at this point, they pretty much know that other people are probably asking me the same thing. One person who messaged and said, look, if you have any of these cards, these are the 4 cards I'm missing to complete this set. This is what I'm looking for. And I had one of those cards that he needed to complete his set. So I took what I felt was a fair value for each card, and I multiplied it times 4. My thought, always easy to negotiate down because it's harder to start negotiating up. And if it's going to go up from there, then these are cards that I'm going to have to put at auction, right? Or start pitting people against each other. Say, hey, well, this one offered me this. What do you think? You want to offer me more? Oh, well, you are going back and forth, which I really didn't want. I didn't want to be that guy. I didn't want to get involved. If I was going to do that, I should have just put them out, on auction somewhere. I felt my prices were way over comps. And I figured I'm going to get a little backlash, which is okay because I'm in possession of the cards. And here's people who really want the cards. And I don't think they're going to be, they're not going to try to beat me up that much to tell me I'm crazy. Well, maybe they might get angry and tell me I'm crazy immediately. But I just felt I was in control to negotiate. So I'm going to start high and we'll let it come back. The guy that needed the one card, for his set, I messaged him that one. I said, I have that one card you're looking for. Here is the price and immediately he said, oh, that's great. Thanks. Can I send PayPal? And then I say to myself, oh, I hope I didn't undersell myself on this. But on the other hand, if he's completing a set and he's down to 4 cards, right? If I was on that, I would be like, even if it is double the price, if I can get this to complete my set, I would take it. So I was happy to help him out. The rest of the cards at the prices I sent to the original poster, who bought, there were 7 cards total. Uh, the one card went to the guy with the set with the completing the set. 5 cards went to the original poster, and 1 went to somebody else. And nobody ever negotiated a price. Uh, they all just, put your PayPal, add this for shipping, no problem. Um, in fact, out of the 3 sales, only 1 guy said, "Look, I'll send it goods and services, and and I expected everybody to. I do too. I send everything goods and services. I'll cover the fees, right?" He said, "I'll send goods and services. I'll cover the fees." The other 2 guys were like, "Look, I'll just send it to you. I see you on this group all the time. No worries." Um, and I felt I really learned a lesson here. I really learned a lesson here, and I may have sold myself short, right? But he he here's a situation where you really can't rely on the comps. You can look at all the comps you want on there, um, but I think the real value and what I'm really understanding with these cards is the real value is in rarity and scarcity, right? Especially for the guy who wants to complete a set, right? So that particular card's numbered to 25. So I probably could have 10x that and got out of him what, because he's down to 4 cards of completing a set, and especially for people completing sets. Um, and since last Thursday, and today's only Monday, so since Thursday on the Facebook group, there's been all these other people, right, that are putting posts up there saying, paying top dollar for numbered platinums because all of a sudden they feel like they must be coming out of the woodwork and people are looking for them. Um, so yeah, I probably, and I can honestly say I probably sold myself short. I probably could have gotten more money out of that, right? Um, do I need to get every penny out of every card in this situation? No. I was able to get this lot at a very good price, and I'm happy. You know what? Here's the thing, and people used to say this all the time to me, where I'd be like, "Oh," they're like, "Oh, I got this card in a lot, and I paid this much for the lot, and I sold it." And I'm like, "Oh, wow! I mean, that's a home run. I mean, every lot must be that way." But nobody ever tells you the work that you have to put in, right? When you get a lot, going through cards. Um, Going through boxes or binders or things like that, especially right? And especially in a situation like me where, a lot of these players I'm not familiar with because they're from '99 and 2000 and the early 2000s. So I really need to go back. So that's a lot of work. That's time consuming. It's a lot of time you're, putting into that too, right? So sometimes I'm sure lots are a home run if you get a lot and they're all graded cards and they're liquid cards or they're cards with tons of comps on them and you can move them right out. I mean, it's a home run, right? But in this situation for me, not only is it work, but it's an educational experience, right? It's I'm learning about the players, the cards, the sets, right? Going back because I've got a ton of other stuff in there. So a lot of these names now, as I'm going through, are becoming more familiar. Oh, I know who this is. I know who that is, right? And I'm kind of happy too in this situation that I originally sent off a number of those cards that had much higher value when these other cards were selling at 30, 25, 30, or $40, right? So there's a number of these other cards that were selling much higher that I sent them off to PSA, right? So I'm able to learn my lesson, learn a lot about the ones that I felt really weren't as valuable as the ones that I sent off to PSA, right? So in a way, I think this situation has worked out perfectly for me, right? Learning some lessons along the way of what I'm doing. Um, I mean, just selling these cards raw, a huge lesson. A huge lesson learned here for me. Um, and it's certainly gonna help me with the graded ones when I get those back and it comes time to sell those. Um, definitely gonna help me there. So I'm dealing with all this during the day on Friday, the messaging back and forth and getting payments and packaging things up, getting ready for them to ship. And then Friday, like, it was probably Friday after dinner, I'm finally like, "Wow, that was quite a run. It was quite an afternoon with all this going on." And I get a message from eBay saying, "Oh, good news, your card sold." I was like, "Oh, I wonder what I sold." Friday nights, if you sell on eBay, you know Friday nights, people, it's like payday, right? It's like Friday nights, if you're gonna sell things, it's usually most of the time you're selling them on Friday and Saturday nights, to me anyways, especially Fridays. Um, so I was like, "Great," and, I go pull up to see what I have to ship out, and it says immediately says, "Oh, your item it was a buy it now and is paid for." I'm like, "Oh, great." Then I look up, I'm like, "Oh my god," it was a one of one gold Rose Lavelle women's soccer card sold. Perfect, and it was up there for, I had a price and a buy it now, or I'm not a buy it now or best offer, and they just bought it. No negotiation, just purchased the card. So I was pretty excited about that, so I'm getting that card ready. Later Friday night, I get another very strong offer on another soccer card, sold, uh, and then later that night, just about bedtime, I get another strong offer on a Cameron Brink card. It was a PSA 1010 auto. I'm like, "What is going on?" And I'm like, It's super." I mean, the last ones had sold for $40 less than what the offer that came in on. Perfect. Sold, right? Um, and on Saturday, while I was away in Boston, not as great sales as those ones, but 3 more cards sold on Saturday. I'm like, "This is working out okay. This is working out to be a pretty great weekend," right? And it's strange because all these cards have been up there for a long time. It's not like I just put these cards up. And the only thing I can think of, and if anybody else has any additional thoughts, please let me know, is that people are just starting to shop for the holidays, and they're buying these cards as gifts, which to me is kind of awesome to think that's what could be happening. Um, so yeah, nice little run on Facebook and eBay this weekend. Um, super excited. It's always excited when you've got cards up there and they're sitting up there and you're like, "Oh, is this card ever going to sell?" Right? And then they do sell and you get super excited. And I did much better those few days that I've done at any show recently. So I was super excited about that. I've been talking about putting my boxes together, my singles boxes together. And really, in my mind, I was getting them ready for the Mohegan show next weekend. Um, so I spent between in the last probably 10 days between going through the some of the WNBA lot stuff and then going through a lot of the cards that I'm getting back from Whatnot, getting them ready to put in boxes to sell as singles, and then having all the basketball cards I have and football cards I have, like just trying to get. It's funny, like I'll say, "Oh, I have an hour of time or whatever." I'll come down to the office and I'll say, "Okay, let me grab this basketball box," and just start going through and pricing all these cards and, $2, $3, $5, that type of thing, and separating them. Um, so I'm set up a New Britain Sunday. I'm like, you know what? Why don't I just take, I had the boxes that I had set up for Mohegan. I said, I'm going to take those and put those out on the table, but I'm going to bring these other boxes I haven't gone through, right? And why I'm there at that show, if I have any downtime, that's what I did. I took 2 3-row boxes of football there, and I combined it into one 5-row box, right? So always just trying to prepare and get ready, for For the bigger shows anyways. I mean, the New Britain show is always like, I know that show, right? I set up there, it's a monthly show, and I know what sells at that show, and I really didn't have that much to put out there. So I thought the singles boxes would be good, and I knew I'd probably have a little downtime that I could sit there and work on other boxes. Why, kind of killing two birds at once with one stone. Um, Yeah, so I was happy I put out those singles boxes. I did really quite well with them. And I had this conversation with Rich too. He says, "What do you," because he sets up in New Britain, "What are you putting out on Sunday?" I said, I'm putting all those Mohegan boxes together and I'm labeling Mohegan boxes. I'm like, but you know what? Money's money. I mean, whether it comes out of New Britain or comes out of Mohegan, I'm gonna start with them there. I'm gonna put them out because I think that's what's going to sell the most there. And I've talked about this on a couple episodes ago, and about I actually even last episode, right? About it's the singles boxes are going to be, I think they're going to be the most profitable between now and the end of the year, anyways. Um, well, unless eBay, right, or Facebook groups. Um, yeah, so I was building boxes while I was selling cards over there, and I had one guy who was looking. There's a guy that comes to all the shows, and he's a set builder, and he set builds with football. And he was going through one. I said, "Look, I've got 2 3-row boxes here that I'm going through, but if you want to go through them first, have at it. Go through those first." And yeah, he came out with a pile of cards out of those boxes too. So I was happy I brought them there. New Britain show was good. A lot of foot traffic. Everybody buying singles, um, but mainly basketball. Seeing what people were buying, seeing what people were asking for, listening to people, talking to the other dealers. They were selling a ton of basketball cards. So that's really what, and I would say probably out of my basketball singles box, um, probably was second. I mean, I think the football singles I sold the most of, and the basketball would have been second for me. Um, but the basketball too was just mostly a lot of last year's rookies, the last 2 years rookies, mostly last year, trying to get some Wembies. Um, and then all the inserts, things like that. But basketball definitely seems to be the most popular right now. And I'm also seeing the prices going a little crazy on Paige Bueckers, right? People are starting to show up at these shows with those cards and putting them in their case. Um, I may have to bring a few of those cards out as well, next week to Mohegan. I saw the mock draft already for the WNBA for next year. First mock draft is out, and of course they have Paige Bueckers going number one. But it's crazy to think that Juju Watkins, whose prices are they're already over Paige Bueckers, and they're through the roof. They've outpaced Paige, and isn't even considered because they know she'll stay for her senior year of college. She won't go to the draft next year. I mean, why would she pass up all that NIL money, to rush to the NBA? It just makes me think, if she's 2 years away from the WNBA draft, can her cards go any higher than they are now? I mean, her prices are like senior year Caitlin Clark prices, in the fall, uh, at the beginning of the senior year for Caitlin Clark. That's where Juju Watkins prices are right now. I mean, obviously not the 78,000 for the gold refractor, Caitlin Clark, not yet anyways. Um, and if you ask me if they if they could if you ask me if I thought that Juju could be as big as Caitlin, right? I would disagree. I would say no, but we don't know. I mean, I think this is all. I think Caitlin did something, and I've talked about this. She did something that, you know, rarely ever happens in a sport, right? But the prices on the stuff are telling a different story, right? Juju Watkins, her autograph cards are selling 800, 1,000, 1,200, 1,400. I mean, some of the higher end autos are up there. Even just base autos and regular autos are selling $400 to $600. And her first Bowman was the 22-23, was the same year as Wemby and Caitlin, right? Caitlin's first Bowman too. And that was the same for Kiki Rice, Madison Booker, Flau'jae Johnson, like a lot of these other players that are there now that are all juniors in college, right? So all these players are not going to this draft next year. They're going to the draft the following year. And that leaves Paige Bueckers top dog, right? But not top price. So I'm thinking price-wise, it may be better to start testing the waters now with the Paige Bueckers cars to start putting them out. Putting them out in my case, especially here in Connecticut, right? I mean, especially had this weekend show coming up at Mohegan Sun. I mean, there's going to be a lot of UConn fans roaming the room. And I'm getting excited for the Mohegan show, as you can tell I'm talking about it. And I'll definitely be talking more about that in the episode later this week. So last thing here, I've been looking at a calendar, planning some shows for next year. And of course, I see Culture Collision in Atlanta in January. Same show I did last year with Craig and Carmine from Crosstown Cardboard. And I know last year when we went to the show in January, it was a great show. It was a great show. And I know they had a show, I think it was September, October, that I know didn't go very well, that, you know, people seem to think that show was a bust. So curious if any of you have any opinion on the Culture Collision show again in January. Is it, I know some of these shows, I know even here, you know, in the Northeast, there's multiple shows held at, you know, different promoters holding shows at the same venue. And I know some are much better than the others. And I just don't know if that's this situation here for Culture Collision, or if it's the same exact show. Is January going to be as good this year as it was last year? Because I know last year a lot of people traveled for that show. And will people be traveling again for that show this year? Will it be worth the trip in January? And also, the Nashville show is Super Bowl weekend. I planned on doing that show, but I can't imagine, you know, many people want to travel Super Bowl weekend to a destination show. I could be wrong, but me and myself, I would rather be home. You know, it's almost traditional to have a Super Bowl party every year and have people come versus trying to be off traveling at a show. So if anybody has any opinion on either show or is planning on attending either show, or is not going to attend either show for any reason, reach out. Let me know what you think. And is there any other destination shows you think I should be looking at? Besides, obviously, the National, I'll be there, Burbank, Dallas. I know they do a couple of shows every year in Chicago, and that's another one in my mind, because I know when I went there for the National 2 years ago, it was pretty easy in and out of there. The airport was close by, the hotels across the street. You know, there was restaurants there. You didn't need to, you know, rent a car or, you know, use much public transportation. That may be another show I may look at to travel to. But what are people planning? If you're planning a destination show, if you're planning on traveling for 2025, what shows are at the top of your list? Let me know. Give me some ideas. I'll be back later this week with a brand new episode. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And if you like what you hear, please definitely subscribe. And most importantly, tell a friend and spread the word. Until next time, take care of yourselves and everyone around you.